Namaste, Dhanava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahamsa, Sripad, Bhakti, Madhava, Puri, Mahārāja, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 23, Text 8. Tenha kramanu siddhena Dvasta karma malashaya pranayama sanirudha sadvargaschina bandhana. By thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaj Pṛthu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activity. Purport. The word pranayama is very important in this verse because the hatha yogis and ashtanga yogis practice pranayama, but generally do not know the purpose behind it. The purpose of pranayama or mystic yoga is to stop the mind and senses from engaging in fruitive activities. The so-called yogis who practice in the Western countries have no idea of this. The aim of pranayama is not to make the body strong and fit for working hard. The aim is worship of Krishna. In the previous verse, it was specifically mentioned that whatever austerity, pranayama, and mystic yoga practices Pṛthu Maharaj performed were performed for the sake of worshiping Krishna. Thus, Pṛthu Maharaj serves as a perfect example for yogis also. Whatever he did to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The minds of those who are addicted to fruitive activity are always filled with unclean desires. Fruitive activities are symptomatic of our polluted desire to dominate material nature. As long as one continues to be subject to polluted desires, he has to accept one material body after another. So-called yogis without knowledge of the real purpose of yoga practice it in order to keep the body fit. Thus they engage themselves in fruitive activities, and thus they are bound by desire to accept another body. They are not aware that the ultimate goal of life is to approach Krishna. In order to save such yogis from wandering throughout the different species of life, the Shastras warn that in this age such yoga practice is simply a waste of time. The only means of elevation is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Activities took place in Satya Yuga, and in this age, this practice of yoga is misunderstood by fallen souls who are not capable of practicing anything. Consequently, the Shastras enjoin Kalo Nasteva 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 Gatiranyata. The conclusion is that unless the karmis, jnanis, and yogis come to the point of devotional service to Lord Krishna, their so-called austerities in yoga have no value. Narhadita. If Hare, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not worshipped, there is no point in practicing meditational yoga, performing karma yoga, or culturing empiric knowledge. As far as pranayama is concerned, chanting of the holy name of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayama. In a previous verse, Sanat Kumar instructed Maharaj Pṛthu to engage constantly in the service of the Lord Vasudeva. Yat pada pankaja palasa vilasa bhaktyaha karmasayam grahitam udragrantayanti shantaha. Only by worshipping Vasudeva can one become free from the desires of fruitive activities. Outside of worshipping Vasudeva, the yogis and jnanis cannot attain freedom from such desires. Tadvannarik-tamatayo yatayo pi rudha shroto ganas tam aranam bhaja vasudevam. Bhagavatam 4.22.39. Here the word pranayama does not refer to any ulterior motive. The actual aim is to strengthen the mind and senses in order to engage them in devotional service. In the present age, this determination can be very easily acquired simply by chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Text 9. Sanat Kumaro Bhagavan Yad Adhyatmikam Param Yogam Tenaiva Purusham Abhajat Purusharshaba. Thus, the best amongst human beings, Maharaj Pṛthu, followed that path of spiritual advancement which was advised by Sanat Kumar. That is to say, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly said that Maharaj Pṛthu, practicing the pranayama yoga system, engaged in service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as advised by the saint Sanat Kumar. In this verse, the words Purusham Abhajat Purusharshabha are significant. Purusharshabha refers to Maharaj Pṛthu, the best amongst human beings, and Purusham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that the best man amongst all men engages in the service of the Supreme Person. One Purusha is worshipable, and the other Purusha is the worshipper. When the Purusha who worships the living entity, i.e. the living entity, thinks of becoming one with the Supreme Person, he simply becomes bewildered and falls into the darkness of ignorance. As stated by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 2.12, all living entities assembled in the battlefield, as well as Krishna himself, were also present in the past as individuals who would continue to be present in the future as individuals also. Therefore, the two Purushas, the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, never lose their respective identities. Actually, one who is self-realized engages himself in the service of the Lord perpetually, both in this life and in the next. Indeed, for devotees, there is no difference between this life and the next. In this life, a neophyte devotee is trained to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in the next life, he approaches that Supreme Person in Vaikuntha and renders the same devotional service. Even for the neophyte devotee, devotional service is considered Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Devotional service to the Lord is never considered a material activity. Since he is acting on the Brahmabhuta platform, a devotee is already liberated. He therefore has no need to practice any other type of yoga, in order to approach the Brahmabhuta stage. If the devotee adheres strictly to the orders of the spiritual master, follows the rules and regulations, and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, it should be concluded that he is already at the Brahmabhuta stage, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mamchayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samitayaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Text 10. Bhagavadharmaina sadho shradhaya yatata sada bhaktir bhagavati brahman Yanya Vishaya Yabhavat. Maharaj Pṛthu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles, 24 hours daily. Thus his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna developed and became unflinching and fixed. Purport. The word Bhagavat Dharmina indicates that the religious process practiced by Maharaj Pṛthu was beyond all pretensions. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, Dharma projihata kaitavotra. Religious principles which are simply pretentious are actually nothing but cheating. Bhagavad Dharmina is described by Viraraghava Acharya as Nivritta Dharmina, which indicates that it cannot be contaminated by material aspiration. As described by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmadyanavritam, Anukuyena Krishnanu, Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. When one who is not inspired by material desires and is not contaminated by the process of fruitive activity and empiric speculation fully engages in the favorable service of the Lord, his service is called Bhagavad Dharma, or pure devotional service. In this verse, the word Brahmani does not refer to the impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is a subordinate feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and since impersonal Brahman worshippers describe a desire to merge into Brahman effulgence, they cannot be considered followers of Bhagavad Dharma. After being baffled in this material enjoyment, the impersonalist may desire to merge into the existence of the Lord, but the pure devotee of the Lord has no such desire. Therefore, a pure devotee is really Bhagavad Dharmi. It is clear from this verse that Maharaj Pṛthu was never a worshipper of the impersonal Brahman, but was at all times a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavati Brahmani refers to one who is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead. A devotee's knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is automatically revealed, and he is not interested in merging into the impersonal Brahman. Maharaj Pṛthu's activities in devotional service enabled him to become fixed and steady in the discharge of devotional activities, without having to take recourse to karma, jnana, or yoga. Text 11. Tasyanaya Bhagavata Parikarma Shuddha Sadvatmanastad Anushasmaranar Purtya Jnanam Virakti Mad Abun Nishitena Yena Chidhe Samshaya Padam Nija Jiva Kosham. By regularly discharging devotional service, Pṛthu Maharaj became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge by which he could transcend all doubt. Thus he was freed from the clutches of false ego and the material conception of life. Purport. In the Narada Pancharatra, devotional service to the Lord is likened unto a queen. When a queen gives an audience, many maidservants follow her. The maidservants of devotional service are material opulence, liberation, and mystic powers. The karmis are very much attached to material enjoyment, and the jnanis are very anxious to become freed from material clutches, and the yogis are very fond of attaining the 8 kinds of mystic perfection. From the Narada Pancharatra, we understand that if one attains the stage of pure devotional service, he also attains all the opulences derived from fruitive activities, empiric philosophical speculation, and mystic yogic practice. Srila Bilvamangala Thakur therefore prayed in his Krishna Karanamrita, "My dear Lord, If I have unflinching devotion to you, you become manifest before me personally, and the results of fruitive activity and empiric philosophical speculation, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, become like personal attendants and remain standing before me as if awaiting my order. The idea here is that the jnanis, by culture of Brahma Vidya, spiritual knowledge, struggle very hard to get out of the clutches of material nature. But a devotee, by dint of his advancement in devotional service, automatically becomes detached from his material body. When the devotee's spiritual body begins to manifest, he actually enters into his activities in transcendental life. At present, we have contacted a material body, material mind, and material intelligence. But when we become free from these material conditions, our spiritual body, spiritual mind, and spiritual intelligence become manifest. In that transcendental state, a devotee attains all the benefits of karma, jnana, and yoga, although he never engages in fruitive activities or empiric speculation to attain mystic powers. Automatically, mystic powers appear in his service. A devotee does not want any kind of material opulence, but such opulence appears before him automatically. He does not have to endeavor for it. Because of his devotional service, he automatically becomes Brahmabhuta. As stated before, this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatiyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Because of his regular discharge of devotional service, a devotee attains the transcendental stage of life. Since his mind is transcendentally situated, he cannot think of anything but the lotus feet of the Lord. This is the meaning of the word samsmarana anuportya. By constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, the devotee immediately becomes situated in Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva refers to the platform which is above the modes of material nature, including the mode of goodness. In the material world, the mode of goodness is considered to be representative of the highest perfection, but one has to transcend this mode and come to the stage of Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness, where the three qualities of material nature cannot act. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following example. If one has strong digestive power, after eating he automatically lights a fire within his stomach to digest everything and does not need to take medicine to aid his digestion. Similarly, the fire of devotional service is so strong that a devotee does not need to act separately to attain perfect knowledge or detachment from material attractions. A jnani may become detached from material attractions by prolonged discussions on subjects of knowledge, and may in this way finally come to the Brahmabhuta stage. But a devotee does not have to undergo so much trouble. By virtue of his devotional service, he attains the Brahmabhuta stage without a doubt. The yogis and jnanis are always doubtful about their constitutional position. Therefore, they mistakenly think of becoming one with the Supreme. However, a devotee's relationship with the Supreme becomes manifest beyond all doubt, and he immediately understands that this position is that of eternal servant of the Lord. Jnanis and yogis without devotion may think themselves liberated, but actually their intelligence is not as pure as that of a devotee. In other words, the jnanis and yogis cannot become factually liberated unless they become elevated to the position of devotees. Aruhya kritrina param padam tata patantyadho nadrita yusmad angraya. Bhagavatam 10.2.32. The jnanis and yogis may rise to the highest position, Brahman realization, but because of their lack of devotion unto the lotus feet of the Lord, they again fall down into material nature. Therefore, Gyan and Yoga should not be accepted as the real process for liberation. By discharging devotional service, Maharaj Pṛthu automatically transcended all these positions. Since Maharaj Pṛthu was a Shaktivesh incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he did not have to act in any way to attain liberation. He came from Vaikuntha world, or the spiritual sky, in order to execute the will of the Supreme Lord on earth. Consequently, he was to return home back to Godhead without having to execute Jnana, Yoga, or Karma. Although Pṛthu Maharaj was eternally a pure devotee of the Lord, he nonetheless adopted the process of devotional service in order to teach the people in general the proper process for executing the duties of life and ultimately returning home back to Godhead. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 12 on Friday. Were there any comments or contributions or questions from the assembled devotees before we end? Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nrsimhapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Shyam Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Nityananda Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari. Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Jai Sripad Adityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu Ji ki jai.
Jai. Haribo.
Take care.
Thanks very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.